Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod review and happy April 1st. Today we're talking about the SMMG and, well, the ruse is over. The SMMG is not coming out. Of course it's not. This has been a long-awaited April Fool's joke. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's totally out. 100%. It's just some weird timing. I try to release my mods on the 1st of the month, and so of course an April 1st release is going to happen. But all jokes aside, it's here. It's out, and you can download it. So as is par for the course, I'm going to go ahead and give this thing a full breakdown in this video, talk about every single little feature available in this mod, and since it's a mod that I created, a little bit of behind the scenes stuff, some of the neat features, and some stuff that was fun to work on, and just, having fun with the process, and of course some teasers for stuff that I'll be working on in the future. So in case you're new to the channel and this is your first time watching a video by me, or you haven't heard of the SMMG project yet, the SMMG, or the shoulder-mounted machine gun, known as the shoulder-mounted M2 in my mod, is going to be just that, a shoulder-mounted machine gun. And I know if you're clicking on this, you may be expecting the SMMG from Fallout New Vegas, and this mod is not that. Though it is very much a shoulder-mounted machine gun, so the abbreviation is still kind of the same. And to be fair, my mod fits that description very well. It is a Browning M2 machine gun that has been converted to be mounted to your shoulder. And quite frankly, 50 caliber is a whole lot better than that puny 10mm. All jokes aside, I really hope somebody does make the classic SMMG at some point. Just trust me, there was a whole lot of work getting this thing to actually function, and so making the proper SMMG is gonna take a lot of work. And that's probably why we haven't seen it just yet. So yeah, this mod is essentially a raider found an M2 that was still semi-functional, took it into his basement, took a whole lot of chems and got to work, and eventually came up with the abomination that you see before you. A shoulder-mounted M2 that is somehow magazine-fed, even though that doesn't exactly make a ton of sense. Now, elephant in the room, obviously this weapon would not work, for a multitude of reasons. But before you keyboard warriors start getting crazy in the comments, this is a video game, and this idea was fun. Obviously, the magazines are going to have a little trouble chambering. Maybe with enough effort you can get it to work. I know that the actual M2 ejects rounds out the bottom, but side ejecting was a lot more fun for this design, and spewing lead really fast was cool. And also, the actual M2 weighs a whole lot. You wouldn't be able to shoulder this thing unless you were an absolute Chad of a human. But again, at the end of the day, this is a video game, and this idea was fun. And so if you download this thing, that's what you're going to do. Have some fun. Put aside the complaints for a little while and enjoy this thing, because it's a lot of fun to use. Spewing out 50 cal at a really high rate of fire, well, at least as far as 50 cal goes, is a pretty fun thing to do. Now, if you've been following the development of this mod at all, you'll know that this thing does use vanilla animations. I'm not quite at the point where I'm comfortable using custom animations yet, though I am getting there. And getting this thing to function, believe it or not, actually took a lot of custom animation work. I'll talk a little bit about it at the end, but there's just a lot going on here because Bethesda never intended for missile launcher animations to be used in full auto. Go try it yourself and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But after getting some help from some amazing mod authors, this thing is now working. It is added to the level list, so you will actually find this thing out in the world on high-level gunner bosses, even the occasional raider boss, and even on super mutants, which, by the way, super mutants can use this thing, which is something I wanted from the very beginning, and I'm glad that I was able to sort of end up with that functionality. So yeah, essentially you can find this thing just about anywhere that you would find a Fat Man, a minigun, or a missile launcher. So essentially all the heavy weapons have a chance to spawn this heavy weapon instead. So you should find this thing not too often, but often enough to make it actually show up in your game. Let's go ahead and hop in game and talk about everything available in this mod in terms of stats, attachments, etc. So here we have the basic version of the shoulder-mounted M2 machine gun. And I gotta say, I'm really happy with this thing. I think it came out exactly as I envisioned it, and I'm really proud of that. This thing has a base damage of 80 in fully automatic. Now, quick disclaimer, the damages between fully and semi-automatic are not different. Typically, mods would change that to balance it out. I'll explain more in the attachment section, but there is a good reason as to why the damages aren't different. I'll get into that later. This thing is default chambered in 50 caliber and it does not have any ammo conversions. I intended this thing to be a 50 caliber autocannon of sorts, and so that's what it's going to be. It has a fire rate of 81 in fully automatic, has a range of 203, an accuracy of 52, a weight of 48.1 pounds, and a value of 607 caps. Now, the actual M2 is even heavier than that. You honestly wouldn't be able to shoulder this thing, but in order for this mod to work, I had to make it somewhat viable, but it is still very hefty. So lugging this thing around is going to cost you a lot of your inventory space, which is fair because this thing is pretty strong. Now, this mod does use the vanilla missile launcher animations, both the triple barrel and the quad barrel, but I want to go ahead and show them off so you can see what you're going to be getting when you download this thing, just in case the animations really are a huge turnoff and you don't want to download because of it. Now, here is the standard small magazine using the triple barrel reload. As you can see, it is a little bit wonky. Adding the tray helped a lot, but your character still does line it up a little bit ahead of time, but that is what it is when you're using vanilla animations. Here is the medium magazine, which uses the quad barrel animations and actually loads from the top, kind of like a Bren. Again, a little goofy. Honestly, the magazine isn't even long enough to really reach the chamber, but it is what it is when it comes to animations. Again, if I had custom animations, then it would look a whole lot nicer. But when you're working with vanilla, you kind of get what you get. Now then, let's go ahead and talk about attachments for this thing, the absolute bread and butter of any weapon mod. Starting with the receivers, which this section is a bit out of order here, but for some reason it won't change in the CK, so receivers are at the bottom. We have the standard, hardened, powerful, and advanced receivers with both semi and full auto versions of each. You'll notice though that when you move from semi-automatic to full auto, it does increase the fire rate and it does reduce accuracy, but the damage stays the same. Typically with a mod or even the vanilla weapons, when you convert to auto, the damage doesn't change. But the real reason is because this weapon was intended to be full auto only. There wasn't going to be any semi-auto receivers. I wanted this thing to be purely a machine gun. But because of the way animations work, and because I'm using vanilla animations, the full auto anims don't exist for the missile launcher, and thus it wigs out on the NPCs. Honestly, it didn't even work for the player at first, but luckily, thanks to the help of some wonderful authors, we eventually got it working, but it still doesn't work for NPCs. So, when it comes to NPCs, they're always going to use semi-automatic, but once you get your hands on it, you can convert it to automatic for yourself. Which, to be fair, you don't really want fully automatic 50 cal shooting back at you, so it's kind of balanced, I guess. Now then, we also have different barrel options. We have the standard M2 barrel that you're used to seeing, the sawn-off version, which is the same exact barrel, but somebody just took a saw to it right there to save some weight. And it does significantly reduce your weight, but it's going to give you a pretty bad penalty to range and accuracy as well. And then we have the anti-air barrel, which is going to be the nice 1919 barrel with an increased fire rate, sort of like an anti-air gun. We also have your different magazine options. We have the standard small mag, which is going to be side loading. We have the medium magazine, as shown earlier. It comes out the top like a Bren. And then we have the drum magazine. And before any of you start complaining, where's the box mag? I didn't make one. I wanted to be unique and original. When I make the underslung version of this weapon, sort of like the Fallout 76 M2, I'll have a box mag. But for this one, it just doesn't work with the reload animations. For sights, you have your standard iron sights, which is going to be the goofy little circle and pin on the left there. And then we have anti-air sights, which is going to be your nice little target sights. Really fun to pair that with the anti-air barrel. And then you have the reflex sight, which is going to be a side-mounted little reflex sight. And a short scope. Kind of stole this one from the missile launcher and retextured it, and I think it looks pretty nice on this thing. Honestly, I couldn't come up with a better scope design, and I think this one fit perfectly anyways. And then we have muzzle devices. Now, it's important to note that when it comes to muzzles, you can only apply it to the standard barrel. I intentionally left it off of the anti-air and the sawn-off barrels, as these give their own little buffs, and don't make sense to have things like suppressors, muzzles, and such. So, for muzzles, we have your standard option, which is no muzzle brake. We have the standard muzzle brake found on most M2s. We have a compensator, which is based on an actual M2 compensator design that I saw online. We do have a suppressor. Initially, I was thinking no suppressors for this weapon, but it turns out M2 suppressors are totally a thing. And surprisingly, they just look like pretty normal suppressors. So I made a heavily tweaked version of the standard 50 cal suppressor for this game, found on the assault rifle, and just converted it to look a little bit nicer on here. And I think it came out pretty cool. Additionally, there is a Bayonet, which is going to require the Basher perk. Surprised we don't see that more often. Basher is a perk that allows you to do more bashing damage with weapons, and so it's going to be required for this gigantic bayonet here. And it means you're going to do some pretty sizable damage when you equip it as well. Additionally, there is a shield, which is going to require the Armorer perk, and this is going to add a nice little ballistic shield to give you some face protection while you're aiming down sights, and it even has a nice little glass area that you can look through and still be fully protected, all complete with some bullet holes and a nice little kill counter on the back. Alright, and then of course it is now time for the damage test for the M2. We have 3 Deathclaws in front of us and we're going to be testing this thing 3 times. First of all, with the standard semi-automatic receiver, even though it's not my favorite feature of this mod, it's something that should be tested. Then we'll have the standard automatic to show you how much more powerful this thing is when you can spew out rounds really fast. And then we'll have the fully upgraded automatic with the highest fire rate and highest damage to show you how much lead you can sling with this thing. And all of these are going to be done without perks, so these are just the raw stats of the weapon showing off what it can do, and it can only get better with perks. So, for starters, semi-auto, standard receiver, let's see how we do. And there we go, in only 6 shots, that Deathclaw is down. So right off the bat, this thing is pretty powerful, but that's to be expected. This thing doesn't start spawning in the world until level 30, so it does take a while to get your hands on this thing, and by then, you're going to be fighting some tougher enemies than Deathclaws anyways. Let's check out the fully automatic version. Again, standard receiver, this time it's in full auto though. So, of course, it's still going to be 6 shots, but you're going to be able to do it much, much faster. So, if you're going to run into the occasional Deathclaw, you can put it down in just a few shots. But if you run into something tougher, you're going to be spewing a lot of 50 caliber ammo, which isn't exactly plentiful. Finally, fully upgraded with the highest damage and the highest fire rate, this thing's going to go down really fast. 3 shots. It went down in 3 shots. If you have the full heavy gunner perk as well, you might put down a Deathclaw in 1 shot if you have a really well-placed aim right at its weak point. But yeah, this thing is pretty crazy. It does a lot of damage. I know some people may say it's overpowered. It's a 50 cal. This thing's strong. It's supposed to be strong, and it's a late-game weapon, intended to be a late-game weapon. All that being said, this thing is super heavy, it takes some very expensive ammunition, and it can spend that ammunition faster than you can purchase it. So, in my opinion, it's pretty balanced. It is supposed to be strong, but it's supposed to be for the late game, again. Anyways, that is the M2, and now it is available for download. So if you want to go and grab it, it'll be linked down in the description below. It's already out there on PC, and it should be coming out very soon for Xbox users. But if it's not up right away, be patient, it is coming. Big shout out to all my patrons for making projects like this possible. You guys are awesome. If for whatever reason you are interested in checking out the Patreon, you get exclusive benefits like early access to my mods. For example, all of the people who were signed up this month were able to play with the SMMG early. Additionally, you get extra Discord roles and some sneak peeks that other people just don't get. So it's there, but it's completely optional. Now really quick before we go, I want to talk about future mods. This mod is done, which means it's time for me to move on to my next project. Now this time around, I will not be doing a vote for you guys to pick because I have so many mod ideas in my documents that I just need to start working on them. So no votes. I'm just going to pick one that I can get out the fastest, and I'm going to try to get more mods out if possible. 1 a month is fine, but if I can do more, that'd be great. Now, I haven't quite dedicated myself to any particular project just yet, and I may hold off on doing so because I have a lot of collaborations that I have promised, and I need to get those done first. So, I'm going to start working on some collab stuff. You may see some things done by me, but maybe not on my actual mod page. I'll cover them and talk about them as they come out. But expect a new weapon to be teased very, very soon. I do plan on coming up with something cool, hopefully maybe even a couple mods this month. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy the mod. Of course, go ahead and try it out for yourself to determine whether or not it fits in your load order, but I hope you like it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a rating, subscribe if you haven't already for more videos just like this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace!